For years, millions of people woke up afraid of eggs. Not because eggs looked unhealthy, not because they made people feel sick, but because somewhere along the way, the world became convinced that eggs were dangerous. Too much cholesterol. Bad for your heart. Limit your eggs. Throw away the yolks. So people stopped eating one of nature's most nutrient-dense foods and replaced it with something else. Sugary cereal, toast, low-fat pastries, processed breakfast bars, sweetened yogurt, fruit juice. Foods that looked harmless, even healthy. Yet strangely, over the last few decades, energy levels dropped, belly fat increased, insulin resistance exploded, and millions of adults began feeling more exhausted than ever before. And today, many people over 50 are quietly asking the same frustrating question. Why does my body feel slower no matter what I eat? But what if part of the answer begins with breakfast? Because hidden inside your first meal of the day is something far more powerful than most people realize. A biological signal. And few foods send a stronger metabolic signal than eggs, especially when you eat them consistently. Now, hearing 4 eggs every morning may sound extreme to some people. For others, it sounds perfectly normal. But what's fascinating is not just the eggs themselves. It's what happens inside the body when high-quality protein, healthy fats, vitamins, and stable energy replace the typical blood sugar rollercoaster most modern breakfasts create. Because after age 45 or 50, your metabolism changes dramatically. And almost nobody explains those changes clearly enough. Muscle mass naturally declines. Insulin sensitivity weakens. Blood sugar becomes harder to regulate. Recovery slows down. Inflammation rises more easily. Energy production inside cells becomes less efficient, which means the body becomes far less forgiving of highly processed breakfasts. This is why so many older adults experience the exact same cycle every morning without realizing what's happening biologically. A quick breakfast, a rapid burst of energy, then suddenly, fatigue, cravings, brain fog, hunger again by mid-morning. And most people assume this is normal aging. But often, it's unstable blood sugar. This is where eggs become incredibly interesting. Because one of the hidden effects of eating 4 eggs every morning is improved satiety, the feeling of staying full and satisfied longer. Now, this matters far more than many people realize. When breakfast is mostly refined carbohydrates, blood sugar tends to rise quickly. The body releases insulin. Energy spikes briefly, then crashes. And that crash often creates cravings for more quick energy later in the day. But eggs digest differently. Protein and fats slow digestion naturally, which means energy tends to remain steadier for longer periods. This is why many people who eat protein-rich breakfasts notice something surprising. They stop thinking about food constantly. Not because of willpower, because their biology finally feels stable. And stability becomes incredibly important after 50, because constant insulin spikes do more than affect hunger. Over time, they may contribute to inflammation, belly fat accumulation, fatigue, and insulin resistance itself. Now, insulin is not bad. Insulin keeps you alive. But repeated spikes throughout the day can overwhelm the body over time, especially when muscle mass is already declining with age. And that's another hidden effect of eating more protein in the morning. Muscle preservation. Most adults over 50 are not eating enough protein consistently, especially at breakfast. Think about the average breakfast: toast, jam, cereal, muffins, juice, mostly carbohydrates. Very little actual building material for the body, but your body after midlife desperately needs amino acids, the building blocks found in protein, to maintain muscle tissue. And muscle is deeply connected to healthy aging. Muscle helps regulate blood sugar, supports metabolism, protects mobility, improves balance, supports energy usage. In many ways, muscle acts almost like a metabolic shield for the aging body. But every year after 50, many adults gradually lose muscle without even realizing it. And one major reason is insufficient protein intake. Eggs provide complete protein containing all essential amino acids the body needs. And when eaten consistently, especially alongside movement or resistance training, protein-rich meals help support muscle maintenance far more effectively than sugary breakfasts. Now, does this mean eating 4 eggs magically transforms the body overnight? Of course not. Real biology doesn't work that way. But consistent nourishment changes internal systems slowly and steadily. And perhaps one of the most fascinating nutrients inside eggs is choline. Most people have never heard of it, yet it plays a critical role in brain function, nerve signaling, liver health, and cellular communication. And many adults unknowingly don't consume enough, which matters because brain function naturally changes with age too. Memory, focus, mental clarity, processing speed, all of these systems rely heavily on stable blood sugar and proper nourishment. This is why some people feel mentally sharper after switching from high-sugar breakfasts to protein-rich meals. The brain itself experiences fewer glucose crashes. And there's another hidden effect many people notice after eating eggs consistently: reduced cravings. Now, this is important because cravings are not always about lack of discipline. Often, cravings are biological feedback. Rapid blood sugar swings create hunger signals. Nutrient deficiencies can increase appetite. Poor sleep affects hunger hormones. Stress hormones influence food choices. The body constantly responds to internal conditions, and protein-rich breakfasts help stabilize many of these signals more effectively than refined carbohydrates alone. But now we need to address the question many people are thinking. What about cholesterol? Because this fear shapes nutritional advice for decades. And here's where things become more nuanced than most people realize. For many individuals, dietary cholesterol from eggs does not affect blood cholesterol levels as dramatically as once believed. In fact, the body itself produces cholesterol naturally because cholesterol is essential for life. Hormones rely on it. Cell membranes rely on it. The brain relies on it. What often matters more is the overall metabolic environment: inflammation, insulin resistance, ultra-processed foods, excess sugar, chronic stress, smoking, lack of movement. These factors strongly influence cardiovascular risk too. Now, this doesn't mean every single person should eat 4 eggs daily without considering personal health conditions. Some individuals may need individualized medical guidance, especially with certain metabolic or genetic conditions. But the simplistic fear surrounding eggs has clearly changed in recent years, and many experts now recognize eggs as highly nutrient-dense foods rather than automatic dietary villains, especially compared to ultra-processed breakfast foods dominating modern diets. And perhaps this reveals something much deeper about modern nutrition confusion. People became afraid of natural foods, while highly processed foods quietly took over breakfast. Now, there's another hidden effect of eating 4 eggs every morning many people don't expect: more stable energy throughout the day. This matters because the body's energy systems become less efficient with age. Mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside your cells, gradually decline in performance over time. And unstable blood sugar creates additional stress on those systems. Protein and healthy fats provide steadier fuel. Not necessarily dramatic stimulation, but calmer, more sustained energy. Which is why many people describe feeling less shaky, less hungry, less mentally foggy, less exhausted by afternoon. The body begins operating more steadily, and steady biology often feels dramatically different from constant highs and crashes. Now, there's something emotionally important here. Many older adults secretly feel frustrated with their bodies. Weight gain feels easier, energy feels lower, recovery feels slower. The body seems unfamiliar somehow. And modern diet culture often blames individuals for these changes. But your body is not weak. It's adapting to aging biology. The problem is that many modern foods amplify the very vulnerabilities aging already creates. Highly processed breakfasts create rapid glucose swings. Low-protein diets worsen muscle decline. Chronic stress increases inflammation. Poor sleep disrupts appetite regulation. The body becomes metabolically overwhelmed. And sometimes, simple nourishing habits help calm those systems dramatically. Now, there's another important thing many people overlook when eating eggs. What accompanies them matters too. Eggs with vegetables, healthy fats, and fiber-rich foods create a very different metabolic response than eggs eaten with processed pastries, sugary drinks, or refined breads. Context always matters in nutrition. For example, eggs with spinach, avocado, or berries provide additional nutrients, fiber, antioxidants, and minerals that support the body more completely. This is why health rarely comes from one magical food alone. It comes from patterns of nourishment, patterns of sleep, patterns of movement, patterns of stress management, patterns of blood sugar stability. Your body is constantly responding to repeated signals. And perhaps one of the most fascinating things about eggs is that they're incredibly simple. No trendy branding, no expensive supplements, no complicated formulas. Just real nourishment humans have eaten for generations. And maybe that simplicity is exactly what modern health has been missing. Because many people today are overfed but undernourished. Plenty of calories, very little actual biological support. This is why some individuals feel tired despite eating constantly. The body receives stimulation, but not stable nourishment. And this becomes especially important after 50, because recovery slows down naturally, which means the body benefits enormously from consistent nutrient density. Eggs provide protein, B vitamins, selenium, healthy fats, choline, iron, fat-soluble vitamins, real building materials. Now, one hidden effect some people notice after increasing protein intake is gradual improvement in body composition. Not necessarily dramatic weight loss overnight, but better fullness, reduced snacking, improved muscle support, more stable blood sugar. And over time, the body often stores less excess fat when insulin swings become calmer, especially around the abdomen, because belly fat itself is deeply connected to insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction. Now here's something very important. The goal is not perfection. You do not need extreme diets. You do not need fear. You do not need obsession around food. The real goal is creating an internal environment where the body feels supported instead of overwhelmed. And simple breakfasts matter more than many people realize because they shape metabolic signals for the rest of the day. A sugary breakfast often creates more cravings later. A stable breakfast often creates calmer biology throughout the afternoon. Your first meal sets a tone. And perhaps the most powerful truth underneath this entire conversation is this: your body is always listening. Every meal sends information. Every night of sleep sends information. Every walk sends information. Every stressful day sends information. The body adapts continuously, which means when you consistently provide better signals, the body often responds positively. Not instantly, but meaningfully. And if you've been feeling discouraged lately, if your energy feels lower, if your metabolism feels slower, if cravings feel stronger than they used to, please remember this: your body is not broken. It's responding to years of accumulated biological signals, which means small, consistent changes still matter enormously. A protein-rich breakfast matters. Muscle preservation matters. Stable blood sugar matters. Sleep matters. Movement matters. And sometimes, something as simple as replacing a processed breakfast with nourishing whole foods can quietly shift far more than people expect. Not through magic, but through biology. And in our next documentary, we're going to uncover another hidden truth millions of adults never fully understand. Why certain healthy snacks may actually be keeping inflammation high, increasing fatigue, and making belly fat harder to lose after 50, even when calories seem perfectly reasonable. Because some foods affect the aging body very differently than they appear on the label.